goddamn song again!
Look out in the cheap seats. The funniest team in baseball is back for their best season ever.
All the way!
Ricky Wild Thing Vaughn.
What was that last pitch you threw me?
Oh, you called the Eliminator.
Jake Taylor.
There's a rookie in camp I'm going to need your help with.
What exactly is his problem?
Roger Dorn.
Come on, Roger. Take one for the team.
Willie Mays Hayes.
And he's out by an eyelash at third. Boy, we never seem to get the close ones.
Pedro Serrano.
Serrano killed baseball.
And making their debuts this season, Jack Fartman. Kamikaze Tanaka. Rube Baker.
I bet you're wondering why they call me Rube.
No, I got a pretty good idea how that happened.
And back in the booth, team announcer Harry Doyle.
The Indians are showing signs of life for the first time in weeks. They appear to be beating the crap out of each other.
Major League 2. It's a swing and a hit.
So unlike D2 The Mighty Ducks, which I would say is the best of the series, this series regressed pretty quickly. I mean, this movie was not good. I mean, it should have been a warning sign right away when the first movie was rated R and this was rated PG because, you know, we got to bring the kids into the Major League series, you know. And, yeah, it didn't work out so well. I mean, they got most of the original people back from the first film, so I don't know why they decided, let's just go to the family route, because it honestly didn't work very well. The writing here is not very good compared to the first movie. The jokes just aren't there. The cast overall doesn't have that same magnetism that they had the first time around. They were able to get everybody back except Wesley Snipes, who at this point had become an action star, and they got Omar Epps, who is a great actor, and I mean, he coaches the Steelers pretty well, because I make that big joke because everybody compares Omar Epps to Mike Tomlin, and okay, there is some kind of there is a little bit of a similarity there, but that's not the point altogether. I mean, Omar Epps, I think he's a really good actor. I've seen him in some pretty good stuff, but yeah, just the movie overall just doesn't have that same spark that the first movie did, and neither of the sequels really did. Like, if you want my honest opinion, and I think I talked about this when I talked about the original Major League 5 years ago, or 5 years, when that movie came out 5 years ago, I should say. I kind of prefer the third movie better. I mean, it's not a good sequel, but at least the third movie had some more laughs to it, at least to me, than this movie did, because this movie really does not have that many good laughs in there. I mean, everybody's trying their best here. I mean, you brought everybody back for a reason, and they're trying their best here. Maybe once or twice there's a good chuckle here or there, but it's just boggled down by that PG rating for something that was rated R before. I don't know why they thought they needed to go down the family route with this, but the family film route with this. But even this isn't even really that much of a family film, but that PG rating. Although I do say that, but this is back when PG actually meant something, and not like the PG of today, where a My Little Pony movie gets a PG rating. Like, the fact that the recent My Little Pony movie and this has the same rating should just tell you how low that PG rating has sunk over the years. But with that said, that's Major League 2. Definitely a major step down from the first movie, I should say. So, let's go to another comedy that had some good talent involved, but it's complicated. Let's talk about Clifford.
Can you just act like a human boy for 1 minute here? Look at me like a person. You can't do it for more than a few seconds. Look at me like a human boy.
The only thing worse than being a 10-year-old boy.
Would you please stop hitting the back of my chair? I am trying to sleep.
I'm sorry, Miss Nice Older Person, but I don't know what you're talking about. Perhaps you were just having a nightmare about your early days in the circus.
Is being his uncle.
You wouldn't lie to me, would you, Uncle Martin? Because if you did, I'd be so angry. I don't know what I'd do.
Martin Short and Charles Grodin.
Now you're gonna make it work! Get a hold of yourself! You're out of control!
Clifford.
Oh, honey, be careful while you eat your cereal. Use a napkin. This boy and his cereal.
So here you have another one of those movies that Orion Pictures had on their shelf for a number of years because they couldn't get the money to finance it, to put it out there. And it was actually shot back in 1990 and came out 4 years later, which should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about this movie. I remember when I first saw this movie, I did not really like it at all. I thought it was not a good movie. I thought it wasn't all that entertaining, but this movie has had an interesting history to me. Like, it's one of those movies where I go back, where at first I didn't like it, and I kind of go back and forth on it. I get what they're trying to do here, and I think what makes it work is Charles Grodin. I think he's the one person in this particular movie that really makes this work out so well, and that's because he was such a great actor. He was able to work with this kind of stuff very well, and I like that this movie went as dark as he could. I like that he went as dark as he could in this movie, and he really is one of the strongest things about this movie. Martin Short in particular, just the idea of him playing this kid, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. And this is the kind of this is the Martin Short that gets really on your nerves very quickly. And it's like a mix between, in a way, it's kind of like a mix between Beethoven and Problem Child. Like, it definitely feels like it has that kind of vibe to it. But Beethoven at least had some value to it, as did Problem Child. But this, okay, I take that back. There is value to it in Charles Grodin's performance, I think. And there are a couple moments that actually did kind of get me, like the random explosion of Charles Grodin's model when he's giving the speech. I don't know why, it just makes me laugh so hard because it basically comes out of nowhere. It's like if Michael Bay came in for a brief second to shoot a scene, and they said, "Okay, we got to blow this thing up," and yeah, it's a weird movie. It's not a good movie. I don't even want to say it's a bad movie. It's a weird movie. It's a movie that's kind of like, I'm glad I saw it. I think it works because of specific elements to it, but other than that, it's a movie that's kind of like a mixed bag for me. It's a movie that's not good, it's not bad, it's just kind of in the middle, honestly. It's not one I'd run back to see over and over again, but every once in a while, if I want to see it again, I wouldn't mind seeing it again, but as it is, it's just a mixed bag kind of a movie, one that doesn't really hold a lot of memorability to me, at least to me. I know some people do like it, but that's just my thinking on it. So, that's Clifford. Let's move on to the next movie, and it's Don Bluth's adaptation of Thumbelina.
I love stories, don't you?
Once upon a time, in a land far, far away,
She's a funny little squirt.
a very small girl, no bigger than a thumb,
I wish I were big.
Don't ever wish to be anything but what you are.
had an impossible dream of finding her one true love.
Let me be your only love.
We'll live happily ever after.
But before her fairy prince could claim her heart,
She's gonna marry the fairy prince.
Well, perhaps.
she was stolen from her home.
Thumbelina's gone.
Who did it? A toad.
And lost to a very big world.
I'll find her.
You are going to marry my son?
Oh, no.
Thumbelina! I hear that she loves the fairy prince, right?
Are you really gonna marry the fairy prince?
Yes.
Well, then follow your heart. It will lead you home.
From the enchanting pages of Hans Christian Andersen's storybook classic and the imagination of Don Bluth, director of An American Tale, comes a magical ride in a world brought to life by the music of Barry Manilow.
Oh, Thumbelina.
I love great romances. Thumbelina. Nothing is impossible if you follow your heart.
A lovely story.
Okay, so we really need to talk about where Don Bluth was at this period, because he had just done Rock-a-Doodle, which wasn't a big hit, but it was still a movie that it made a decent profit and had a lasting following to it. But then, right after that movie came out, the studio that Don Bluth had created, Sullivan Bluth Studios, went into bankruptcy. So he had these 3 different projects that were all coming out at the same time, like over the course of a year, and not all of them were, and needless to say, not all of them were good. In fact, most of them were pretty bad, with the exception of the last one, which you might be surprised by. But I guess this one was the second least bad, or the second most good. I mean, I don't know really where you want to go with it, but it's certainly the best Don Bluth movie that came out in '94. The other one that came out in '94 is we'll get to that one eventually, but this is basically Don Bluth trying to do a Disney knockoff, which is funny because 3 years later, he would actually do a Disney knockoff in Anastasia, which actually would turn out a whole lot better. But with this movie in particular, it's just kind of like, there's elements there that should work. It's got a pretty good cast to it. It's got the music of Barry Manilow, and it just doesn't have that same spark. It's got nice animation to it, and I mean, they went all in to try to make this their own Disney knockoff by getting Jodie Benson from The Little Mermaid as the voice of Thumbelina. And I mean, you got a great cast overall here. Gilbert Gottfried, Carol Channing, John Hurt, Charo, Kenneth Mars, June Foray, Tony Jay, Will Ryan, Lauren Lester, just these notable names that you've seen and heard before. And I mean, the movie just didn't work out very well at all. It's a movie that's not really anything all that exciting. It doesn't really do anything that's really, really all that good of a film. I mean, put it this way. When they did test screenings for this movie, Warner Brothers actually replaced this with the Disney Pictures logo, and it got higher scores because of that. That should pretty much tell you everything you need to know about how bad this movie really is, because it's really a bad movie. And if I saw this movie back then, I honestly would have just gone to see it for the Animaniacs short that was in front of it. I guess they were going to do a series of Animaniacs shorts because the show had just premiered at the time. And they had the I'm Mad short at the beginning in theaters at the beginning of this, and eventually went into the series. And they were actually going to do more of these, but because this movie failed, they never put those in theaters again. But if you watch the Animaniacs TV series, you can tell which ones I think were intended to be theatrical releases, because you'll start to see the black bars, the widescreen black bars show up on there. And like I said, honestly, if I was at this age, at the age I was seeing this movie, I would have just got to see the Animaniacs short and then just left. I mean, I would have get my parents to take me out of the movie theater. I mean, it'd basically be the equivalent of what I should have done with Ice Age Continental Drift. I really only went to see that movie to see the Simpsons short that was in front of it, and I really wanted to get out of there, but that wasn't the case. But as far as this movie goes, it's not very good, but like I said before, it beats the crap out of what Don Bluth does next, and it's just not a very entertaining movie. It's trying its best to try to be a Disney knockoff, but it's trying to be something of Disney caliber, but it ends up coming across as just a Disney knockoff, and it's not a good Disney knockoff. But, I mean, like I said, it's not as bad as what we'll get to later on in the year from Don Bluth, but, that's just my thoughts on Thumbelina. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is The House of the Spirits.
Memory is fragile, and a lifetime is brief. But every relationship, every action, and each passion are the events by which time is remembered. These crowning moments of life between a husband and wife, family and friends, citizen and country, change the world forever.
I think you can kind of get the idea of what this is supposed to be, but right away, I think the biggest thing that you can tell from this is that it's one of those movies that had so much promise to it, a promising director, and a promising cast that includes Meryl Streep, Glenn Close, Jeremy Irons, Winona Ryder, Antonio Banderas, Vanessa Redgrave, just some of the most notable stars and Oscar winners of the past couple of years. But one of the big problems with this movie, if you've ever read the story for this, is that you're casting predominantly white English-speaking actors in a Latin American period film, and Needless to say, the movie did not pan out well at all. It was not a good movie. It did not do well. It was heavily considered one of the biggest misfires of the year, and you could probably see why. It's a film that really, it doesn't really have that spark that the book had, and you can put as many good people in there as you can, but even then, it's not going to help save your movie if the material you're giving them is not very good. And I mean, at least from what you're trying to sell this movie as, I mean, the biggest problem is that you have notable actors in this movie that's clearly meant for a specific type of actor. Like, you can't cast white English-speaking actors in a movie where it requires a person from Latin America to play these roles. And that really just that's really one of the major problems with the movie, is that it doesn't do that well, and it's just a huge misfire on so many levels. Like, Miramax was really coming up on its own at this time, and this is one of their major stumbles from early on. And you could definitely see why. It's just a movie that wasn't good, bad casting all around, didn't do the book any justice, and it was just seen as a major misfire. It's no wonder that this movie came out in the middle of March and April, because if Miramax thought that this was going to be their big Oscar consideration, they would have moved this to November, December, because they really believed in it. They really didn't believe in this movie, and you could definitely see why. So that's The House of the Spirits. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is Barry Levinson's Jimmy Hollywood with Joe Pesci and Christian Slater.
I have a bus bench on Sunset, right near the gates of Bel Air, big traffic flow area. They're looking for an actor, boom, they see me. Catches your eye, don't you think? If you're riding by, it catches your eye? Look good, very, very good, very compelling. The phone could ring any moment, that could be the call. That my phone? No.
Do you have a picture and resume?
He's got his own bus bench, Ed. You ever see that show Matlock, The Roll of Cliff?
Oh, he was on that show?
No, he was up for The Roll of Cliff.
As an actor, Jimmy Alto couldn't get arrested.
Some guy just held me up at the ready teller.
What? Will somebody tell me what kind of sick world this is we live in?
So he took matters into his own hands.
What is the gun and the video camera all about?
Gonna videotape him in the act, arrest him, and hand him over to the police.
And gave himself the role of a lifetime.
You gotta think of this in acting terms. How's it look if I stay like this?
It looks like you don't have any arms.
This is K4. This is J5. Who am I? Who am I? This is Jericho, cell leader of the SOS. Let it be known from this day forth that lawlessness will not be tolerated.
He's very convincing. Yeah, he's a good actor.
I thought it was pretty good. What'd you think?
I don't know. It took 35 or 40 goes to get it. I kind of lost my perspective.
The police could never intimidate them the way the SOS can.
You will be chained to a bed.
Chained to the bed? I ain't with no freaky stuff, man. Y'all just kill me right now.
What the hell is this guy doing in my bathtub? Down and gag it.
I didn't know you were coming home.
The SOS is apparently striking a favorable nerve in Hollywood.
I wish I could join the SOS. Tell you the truth.
That's a way to reveal it.
Joe Pesci. Christian Slater.
That my phone?
No.
Jimmy Hollywood.
I'm like the biggest thing on TV.
You really are a sick nut, you know that?
You're running the Oscar speech!
A new comedy by Barry Levinson.
Yeah, we're kind of in the lull of Barry Levinson movies that were coming out. Movies that had good potential to them, but in the end, they just didn't work out. And this is another one of those movies where the pieces are there. They've got a really good leading actor in Joe Pesci who fits this role perfectly, and Christian Slater, who's pretty good in the movie too. Unfortunately, the material that they're both given just doesn't work. It's not really all that hilarious. The writing isn't very funny. The satirical elements that the story should have aren't really all that good, and it's just a real major misfire on so many levels. Like a movie that really should have more going for it than it actually ends up becoming. Like, I mean, it just doesn't work. It's not funny. It's not really all that engaging, and it's just a waste of really good talent. Like I said, Joe Pesci is perfect for this role, and you can see what they're trying to say here, but they just can't stick the landing. And for Barry Levinson, who wrote the script alone, you expect a whole lot more from him, especially with the work he had done beforehand. But, yeah, like I said, this is not one of his strongest works. It came and went, and you could probably see why. But, I mean, kind of like with Don Bluth, I'll give him this. He made his best film with this film compared to the other film he made in 1994. But even that one isn't really all that great either. But, So yeah, that's Jimmy Hollywood. Now let's end this on a high note. Let's talk about Guillermo del Toro's Cronos. The first feature film from Guillermo del Toro, of course. This is the movie that was selected as the Mexican entry for the foreign language film at the Academy Awards. It didn't get the nomination, but it's still a fantastic movie. If you have the Criterion set with this, The Devil's Backbone, and Pan's Labyrinth, his trilogy, in fact, I don't remember what the name of the trilogy was. Give me a second. Okay, maybe there wasn't a name for it, but I know that with this, Devil's Backbone and Pan's Labyrinth in the Criterion Collection, there's a trilogy set of all three movies, and you can definitely see why Guillermo del Toro became who he was with this particular movie. This is a movie that's very stylistic, very ingenious, very creative, very tense, very terrifying. Great performance by Ron Perlman in this movie, and it's just a solidly made film. It's a very nice, ugly-looking movie, but in a good kind of ugly kind of way. And it's just a very well-made film. It shows you everything that makes Guillermo del Toro so special as a director, that he makes a movie like this, and it really grows into the career that he would eventually have going down the road. Not every movie he made was perfect, but it's a great start that shows everybody that, hey, this guy's got a lot of potential, and he would eventually show that potential in the many movies that he would end up doing after this point. And that's pretty much all I got for you. If you haven't seen Cronos and you want to see some of Guillermo del Toro's best work, definitely check this one out. You will not be disappointed by it at all.
You could call my junior year in college an experiment in living.
Sure. 1, 2, 3.
Having one roommate was okay, but having two roommates was totally unexpected.
If you don't stop eating my yogurt, I'm gonna kill you.
You make murder sound so sexual. Sex, it's like pizza. Even if it's bad, it's still pretty good.
Larry, this is Eddie and Stuart.
Hi.
It's about his hair. Is it fiberglass or steel?
I find libraries very erotic.
This girl, she is a live wire of sexual energy.
The point of this story isn't you. Why would you kiss me?
You're just looking at my butt. He is what he is.
He doesn't know what he is. He's confused.
He's not confused about my butt.
It's not normal. The three of us living together. I need a facial. I need to go on a diet. I need new shoes. How are the Three Musketeers? Oh, just one big happy family.
For the three of us together, the improbable became possible.
Maybe this should just be our little secret.
Don't tell Storm. I know something that you don't.
What did you say?
And the possibilities were endless.
Honestly, I never even heard about this movie until I looked it up, and I'm kind of glad I never looked it up, because honestly, it looks pretty bad. Like, you remember when The Big Chill came out in the 80s, and you had those knockoff Big Chill movies, the movies that were trying to be like The Big Chill, or even Diner? You had stuff like Independence Day, Windy City, those type of movies. And this movie feels like one of those movies that's just a ripoff of a coming-of-age movie from the time period. Something like A Dazed and Confused, or Singles, or I can't even remember some of these other ones but I know there are some that I can't think of at the top of my head right now. But this just feels like a movie that really has no idea what it wants to be. It just wants to have these relatively hot young actors working off each other, and they actually have a threesome in this movie. They don't tell you about it in the trailer, but that title is not just a title. Apparently that actually happens in the movie. And it just doesn't look like there's really a whole lot there to it. I mean, one of the guys is gay, and one of them is straight, one of them is also straight too, I guess. it's just, I'm just so confused on this. I'm just so confused just on this trailer alone, because it's described as an erotic dramedy, but it doesn't even look like that from that trailer. I mean, and the stuff I've heard about this movie from the reviews I've seen have not been very good. Like, a lot of them say that it's a dull drama with a script that doesn't really work out so well. There's not really anything funny. There's not really anything dramatic in there. I think the only thing that sells it is the fact that in the title, the thing actually happens in here, but that's about it. And, but honestly, that's pretty much all I know about this movie, because I haven't seen it, so I can't really delve into it too much. I mean, it's got a good cast to it. Josh Charles, Laura Flynn Boyle, Stephen Baldwin. Good cast. And it's actually done by a director who, honestly, his career started off pretty badly with stuff like Bad Dreams and then this. But then kind of after that, it kind of started going off for him. He did stuff like The Craft, a couple of underrated comedies, Dick, The In-Laws, the one with Michael Douglas and Albert Brooks, Hamlet 2. So he has made some good movies, and I don't know. I just don't think this one was one of those ones. I think this was the one that finally... I think this was the one where he realized that this didn't work out, and he had to get better as a director, and eventually the next movie he did actually ended up turning out great for him, which we'll get to The Craft in 1996. But as far as this goes, I can't really comment on it. I just can only say that that trailer did not sell me on this movie, really. Despite the people they have involved here, I have not heard too many good things about this one. So, anyway, that's Threesome. Let's go ahead and move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is the sequel to the year's previous surprise horror hit, Leprechaun 2.
It's almost time.
True love can be hard to find. For some, it takes a lifetime. For him, it took 1,000 years.
God bless you.
And now that he's finally found her, he's going to love her.
I'm back.
To death.
Definitely not the first movie. I mean, the first movie was a fun, silly, over-the-top horror comedy, and this just doesn't have that same spark to it. It's a movie that I felt like they were obligated to make a sequel for. They got the director of The Unborn from 1991, which we talked about on that one. That was not a very good movie. I mean, give it up to Warwick Davis for coming back to make these movies over and over again, but, I mean, this one I felt like this one honestly feels like they're just trying to make a sequel because the first movie was such a success, and they didn't really have a whole lot there to it. I can't really say for sure because I haven't seen the whole movie itself, but I mean, this one doesn't work out pretty well, and I would say that these movies get worse and worse, but at the same time, these movies do get a little bit more funnier and the more ridiculous it gets. Like after Leprechaun 3, I think it really starts to become like, okay, we're getting really silly with this. Leprechaun in space, Leprechaun in the Hood, Leprechaun back to the Hood. I mean, come on, man. But at least after 3, they obviously know that these movies are not that great, but they're at least having fun with it. Like I said, even Warwick Davis really admits that the only reason he did this was because of money, because he got a pay increase for this after what he did with the first movie. And, I mean, that's really all I got to say about it. I haven't seen it. I have seen the original one, which is a fun, silly movie. And, I don't know. I just don't think this one has that same kind of spark to it, unfortunately. So, yeah. That's Leprechaun 2.
Come on down, kids. We're going to have a nice family breakfast.
Norman Robertson has his family.
Billy, breakfast.
Morning, dear.
Hey, Cal. Oh, I'm supposed to catch it, son.
We're going to have a nice family breakfast.
And he has his dreams.
Freeze! Put your hands behind your back and spread them.
I said spread them. Detective Jake Stone is the toughest cop on the force. With an attitude to match.
I hate him. He hates me, son. Hates everybody.
But when a dangerous criminal moves next door...
Your home is the perfect cover for an effective stakeout, Mr. Robertson.
Wow. The cops have to move in with...
Hook 'em, Dano.
The Robertsons. Now, the Robertsons are trying to adjust. Come, police officer, they come! The cops are learning new rules.
Jake be happy mow the lawn.
And Norman, he's an idiot, is having his dream come true.
Breaker, breaker, this is Man from Uncle.
TriStar Pictures presents Chevy Chase.
You be good cop. I'll be bad cop. You are not a cop.
Jack Palance.
I'm sorry, my son bit your neck and tried to suck your blood. It happens.
And Diane Wiest.
Now drop that gun and don't make Mommy tell you twice.
Cops and Robertsons.
You talking to me? You talk to me?
So something you have to keep in mind with this particular movie, it was actually released in, as I said, April 1994, but a few months before this, Chevy Chase had a late-night show that you may or may not be familiar with. It was on Fox, and it literally ran for 5 weeks, even though Fox was hoping it would become the next Tonight Show, which it did not, and it basically took Fox out of the late-night talk show thing altogether and kind of damaged Chevy Chase's career for a little bit. And I believe this actually was filmed before the Chevy Chase show came out. I don't know why it would have been after, because that was October 1993, and this came out in April, unless they really shot this quickly. I'm going to take a guess and just say that it came before the Chevy Chase show, and, yeah, needless to say, this is not one of Chevy Chase's best movies. This is actually probably one of his weaker films. I mean, he's basically trying to play a mixture of both Clark Griswold and also, Fletch as well, kind of mixed in there in this particular role, playing the sidekick to Jack Palance's character. There's potential here. There are moments in here where there will be an occasional laugh or two, but it really wasn't that funny of a movie. It was a movie that was mostly forgettable. The laughs weren't really there. Those lame attempts at trying to do parodies of different things, like the taxi driver thing at the end of the trailer, like, Chevy Chase, you're better than this, man. Like, you can make much funnier material out of stuff like this besides this, but it just didn't work. It was a movie that came and went, and it just really wasn't that good of a movie. It was a movie that was quickly forgettable, had some potential there, but just never really did anything important. But at least for the director Michael Ritchie, at least he made a better movie in 1994. But we'll get to that one a little bit later on. Cops and Robertsons definitely is not that one. So that's that movie. On to the next film, and that is Surviving the Game.
Why would you want to kill yourself? Maybe I like the idea of choosing when I die instead of having somebody else choose for me. If someone offered you a good job, would you be interested? What kind of job are you talking about? We need someone to help us with our hunts out in the wilderness.
Are you sure about this one?
Oh, I'm sure.
Have you got courage?
Gentlemen, I would like you to meet our new hunting guide, Mason.
Here's a toast to the hunters and a prayer for the hunted. The hunt begins now.
Just let me get the door for you. Go.
We're not really going to hunt him, are we?
He's nothing. He's less than nothing.
Come on, Mason!
I won't take any part in this.
I want you!
If you make it to civilization, you live. If you don't, maybe God will have mercy. I think he's going back to the cabin.
None of them has ever done that before.
Mr. Mason!
What's that smell?
Everybody out of the cabin!
I like not being rare.
Try well done, bitch.
Jack Mason knows he's going to die someday.
Damn, I wish I'd never started smoking.
But today, he's not in the mood.
This is where it gets interesting.
Never underestimate
Come on, Mason!
a man who has nothing to lose. Rutger Hauer, Charles Dutton, Gary Busey, F. Murray Abraham, William McNamara, and Ice-T. Surviving the Game. Directed by Ernest Dickerson.
So basically, this is just an adaptation of the short story The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell, and had actually been done before this. There was an adaptation of the story in 1932. There was one in 45 called A Game of Death, Run for the Sun in 56, Bloodlust in 61, Confessions of a Psycho Cat, The Woman Hunt, Turkey Shoot, Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity, Deadly Prey, Death Ring. Recently we looked at it in Hard Target. Basically, you've pretty much seen the story done over and over again. And despite the good cast they have in here, and despite the talented direction of Ernest Dickerson, who just done Juice before, it just doesn't really have that spark to it. Ice-T, I think, has proven since this movie came out that he can be a decent actor, but him trying to be the next Schwarzenegger or Stallone or Van Damme, it just didn't work here. There was a really good cast in here, and there's a good idea to modernize the story for a new generation, but overall, it just didn't work out. It's a story that I think doesn't really have... Actually, I don't know if the story has ever been done well. I mean, I've heard The Hunt is actually pretty good. It's the most recent story that's been done based off of this, so I don't know for sure, but maybe that's the one that finally does it. But I feel like this story could be done a whole lot better with a good director and a good satirical element to it. But maybe films like The Hunt or even something like The Condemned do that. But I haven't seen those movies, so I can't really comment on them just yet. But at least here, at least with this movie, I don't think it worked out very well in the end. I think it's a movie that, again, had potential to it, has a good cast to work off of, but the script just wasn't there. It was a movie that just doesn't work as well as I think they wanted it to. So anyway, that's Surviving the Game. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is another Disney sequel in '94, White Fang 2, Myth of the White Wolf.
My grandfather spoke often of the time when the thunder in the earth would be followed by the coming of the wolf.
They believe the spirit of an animal can enter a man. Strange things? Maybe. Not strange for us.
Lily, you came to me in my dream. You and the wolf, you showed me the way. You will leave in the morning.
Where am I going, Uncle?
To bring back the wolf.
An age-old Indian legend is about to lead White Fang and a courageous young man named Henry Casey
Come on, boy. Come on.
into a new world of adventure.
Speed out, boy.
White Fang!
This is the one, Uncle.
My dream told of the wolf that would lead us, and now you are here.
The wolf was my friend. I lived with him.
Now they're fighting to save a proud people
The wolf is a great hunter with a warrior's heart.
and bringing the legend to life.
White Fang!
Walt Disney Pictures presents White Fang 2, Myth of the White Wolf.
You know, honestly, for a sequel that really didn't need to exist, this is actually pretty good. This is actually kind of an underrated sequel. I mean, it actually continues the story from the first movie pretty well. It comes up with a unique story that's very different from the first movie, and the acting overall is very good. I like the way that the animal actors, too, also are able to work very well here. I think I realized that that one of the people behind the scenes, Joe Camp, I believe it's Joe Camp who did the animal work on here. He also did the original Homeward Bound. I think he has does a pretty good job of letting the animals actually work very well on screen. I think they have good chemistry with the human actors in here, and there is actually a very good story to it. There's actually a really compelling story to tell. Once again, these mountain scenes, these snow scenes are just so beautiful to look at, and you're just along for the adventure. This is a good, fun Disney adventure movie, a good, fun classic Disney adventure film, and I mean, the first one's okay. I think this one actually kind of ups it a little bit. I think it really is an enjoyable sequel that is very underrated. I think it definitely should be given another chance to be seen by a lot of people, and really, they should see it, because it actually is, there is a lot more merit to it than I think a lot of people give it credit for, so definitely check it out. You might be surprised by it. So that's White Fang 2. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is John Waters' Serial Mom, starring Kathleen Turner.
Life doesn't have to be ugly. Look at the birds out there. Listen to their call. Hoo-wee. Hoo-wee.
This is the story of Beverly Sutphin.
It's scrambled eggs, anybody?
A devoted mother.
I'm so happy I could chip. You know how I hate the brown word.
A loving wife.
I think the kids are awake. We could be very quiet.
I'm ready.
Honey, you're hot tonight.
And a suspected murderer.
Oh, kids, are you doing your homework?
How did America's #1 mom turn into one of America's most wanted? Is she really guilty?
Are you a serial killer?
Chip, the only cereal I know anything about is Rice Krispies.
Is she the only one with a motive?
Believe that damn litter bugger.
Give her a happy face.
Or is there someone else
I'm stood up. I'll kill that jerk.
with an axe to grind?
Oh. You'll never get a boyfriend.
Meanwhile, this small Baltimore suburb keeps getting smaller and smaller.
It's been a crazy day, hasn't it?
Savoy Pictures asks the burning question,
Is your wife mental?
is Beverly Sutphin just a sweet suburban housewife?
I don't know what it is about today, but I feel great. Okay?
Or is she serial mom?
Cool. Is she in a band?
Kathleen Turner, Sam Waterston, and Ricky Lake. Serial mom. Every woman wants to be wanted. Just not for Murder One.
Beverly, I've read all about this. Is it menopause?
Overall, not an all-around winner, but honestly, the only reason you should see this movie is for the over-the-top chaotic performance of Kathleen Turner in this. I think this is actually one of her funnier performances. This is probably her best overall starring performance I've seen her in since Peggy Sue got married. And I guess maybe Who Framed Roger Rabbit if you want to throw that into the mix as well. But I think she really does carry the movie overall. I don't think the rest of the movie itself is that great. The jokes aren't really flying all that well. There isn't that same kind of spark and unique film style that John Waters usually brings to this. Like, you could definitely see it in his other movie, Crybaby, which came out before this, which was another kind of mainstream movie. But as far as this movie is concerned, it doesn't. I feel like this is the most he was trying to go mainstream at, and I think it only works because of the scenes with Kathleen Turner in it. I think she really is the funniest thing about this movie. And whenever she's doing the jokes, they are usually very funny. I wish it could have been a little bit more funnier. I think you have a good cast here that could really make this stuff work. Sam Waterston, Ricky Lake. You see Matthew Lillard pre-screaming here. And you also got cameos by Patty Hearst, Suzanne Summers, Joan Rivers, Tracy Lords. There's potential there for something great. As it is, it's a decently made film. It could have been a whole lot better, but I mean, for what it is, it's fine for what it is. Definitely see this movie if you want to see a really good Kathleen Turner over-the-top performance, because this movie definitely features that, and it's very, very funny whenever she's on screen. So anyway, that's Serial Mom. On to the next movie, and that is Backbeat.
You know what I like about Liverpool, Mr. Sutcliffe?
Now, what is it you like about Liverpool, Mr. Lennon?
I was hoping you'd tell me.
John Lennon and Stuart Sutcliffe were best friends.
I like the blonde, but I prefer the brunette.
Yeah, but blondes have more fun.
Their band was called The Beatles.
I'm 19 years old. I've got my whole life.
And where's he gonna get you?
Hamburg for a start.
In 1960, they hit the road.
It's only temporary.
Temporary.
What do you want for nothing? You top 10 yet? You haven't done nothing yet.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're the band. You'd be happy to know we keep our clothes on.
That's why I go for that rock and roll.
Listen, John, this group can't carry Stu. You know that, don't you? All he does is stand there.
It's the way he stands. If you kick Stu out of this band, I'll go with him.
What is it then? What is it between you two?
They met a woman who changed their lives.
This is Astrid. Astrid? She's a photographer. You'd like her if you gave yourself the chance. She wants to take our photograph.
She can photograph my arse, mate.
You're the angriest person I've ever met.
I'm not angry, sister. I'm desperate.
I think you're jealous.
Jealous? Oh, yeah, jealous. Jealous of who? Jealous of Stu.
Jealous of me.
One became a legend. The other fell in love.
Jill, she's just a girl. You don't know her. She'll get rid of you. She'll finish with you as she did to Klaus. She's going to do to you.
From the producers of The Crime Day comes Backbeat, the remarkable story of the friendship behind the most popular band in history.
There goes Stuart Sutcliffe. He could have been in the Beatles.
I love him, Tom.
Don't we all?
Once again, another movie that has so much potential to it, and it just can't really deliver on it. I feel like there's a spark there that's missing in this particular film, but you could definitely see the effort there is there. There are people trying. I think Stephen Dorff as Stuart Sutcliffe is doing the best he can with this, and Ian Hart as John Lennon, I think again is also very good in here. There is a very good story to tell here. You get to see the story of the Beatles before they became the Beatles that we know of today, and there's a good story there, just not the right execution. It's a movie that I think really stumbles out of the gate. It really struggles to find a good common ground to actually tell the story that actually makes sense. The music overall, I think, is pretty good. I just wish the script had been a little more tighter. I think the script should have been a lot more interesting, but it's basically kind of the typical biography. Yeah. What do I want to say here? It basically goes with the typical music biopic formula storyline that we've seen done to death so many times, where it's one of those things where the performances are so good, but the rest of the story is just kind of mediocre because it's been done to death so many times. It feels like that kind of thing is happening here too. It feels like a movie that there's so much effort there that could have been, that is placed in here, but it just doesn't really have that spark that it needs to make it stand out on its own. It's a movie that feels mostly flat for the most part. There's not really a whole lot there to make it stand out. And that's kind of a bummer because there is so much potential there with the stuff that we see in this trailer. And the music overall is pretty good, but as it is, another missed opportunity. Another missed opportunity indeed. So that's Backbeat. Now let's move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is In Custody.
आज एक हर्फ को फिर ढूंढता फिरता है ख्याल मद भरा हर्फ कोई जहर भरा हर्फ कोई दिल नशी हर्फ कोई जहर भरा हर्फ कोई आज एक हर्फ को फिर ढूंढता फिरता है ख्याल हर्फे उल्फत कोई दिलदार नजर हो जैसे जिससे मिलती है नजर बोसाए लब की सूरत इतना रोशन कि सरे मौजाए जर हो जैसे सोबते यार में आगाज तरब की सूरत हर्फ नफरत कोई शमशीर गजब हो जैसे आज एक हर्फ को फिर ढूंढता फिरता है ख्याल.
I mean, basically, you get what you get here. It's a Merchant Ivory movie directed by Ismail Merchant. You're following a professor of Hindi at a local college, and his first love is the Urdu language, and in particular, Urdu poetry. His multiple attempts to interview this great poet, Nur, it kind of acts as a metaphor for the clash between modernization and tradition, and I'm literally reading this off of Wikipedia because I have never seen the movie, so I can't really comment on it too much. I can just say that it exists. It came out on this weekend. It looks visually pleasing, so I don't know. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's not so good. I can't really say for sure. I haven't seen it, so I can't really comment on it, but came out this weekend, so In Custody.
It's a homesteader's claim to 640 acres. I'd like it if you all go in with me.
All they wanted was a fresh start.
Well, your claim's worthless without your husband alive.
They had no rights.
You touch her again, you're a dead man.
I don't let my friends get hung.
They had no justice.
If your laws don't include me, well, then they just don't apply to me either.
And no one to stand up for them.
A woman like you would be happier shopping someplace else.
They didn't want this kind of life.
Do I look like a criminal?
They didn't ask for this kind of trouble.
Who's going to volunteer for the posse?
But fate turned 4 women into friends.
They put Pinkertons on your trail. You best keep moving.
4 friends into fugitives.
Stop!
And 4 reluctant heroes.
We ain't heroes.
In legends, Bad Girls.
I mean, a great cast, a great director. You would think that this could work, but, yeah, it didn't. It really did not. It was a movie that had so much potential to it. There was a lot of good ideas, a lot of good talent on here, but you could pretty much tell if you dig deep into the history of this film that there was a lot there that this movie really could not save it. The original director of this was supposed to be Tamara Davis, who would later go on to direct Half-Baked, and 3 weeks into filming, she was fired, and they hired a new producer. They brought in Jonathan Kaplan. They brought in a new scriptwriter, a new cinematographer, and the budget went up. The film just didn't work as the film went through all these difficult problems behind the scenes. Madeline Stowe later called it a terrible, terrible movie that she worked on. And it was a movie that just had so much potential to it. There's such a good idea here. But I think that trailer, perfectly sums up everything that's wrong with this movie. It doesn't know what kind of a tone it wants to set. I mean, I think when you have a movie with Madeline Stowe, Mary Stuart Masterson, Andie MacDowell, and Drew Barrymore, four of the top actresses in Hollywood at the time, four of some of the top actresses at the time. I mean, you would think there would be something more to it. It's like try to do something kind of like a female equivalent to Young Guns. Like, I feel like that's what the initial idea was, but I don't know what they were thinking when they made this movie. And they got so much talent on board here. They brought in Jerry Goldsmith to do the music for this, and just the pieces were there. Just the execution was not, though. It was a movie that feels like it's all over the place. It doesn't feel like it's trying to do anything different or unique. It just feels like a Western that we've seen done over and over again. And it's a shame because there is so much potential here with this movie and these two people that are involved in here. But in the end, it just doesn't lead to anything. It doesn't lead to anything really enjoyable. It's a mostly misguided mishap on so many levels. And you just feel like there's so much potential there, but it just doesn't stick the landing in the end. It's a huge disappointment. I was really looking forward to seeing this movie when I saw it in the DVD bin at Walmart many years ago. And when I saw it for the first time, I really did not like it. And it's a movie that really... it took me a lot to really remember what about this movie I didn't like. And when I saw the trailer again, it kind of immediately brought me back to everything I didn't like about it. It's a movie that really... they missed the mark on it big time. It's a movie that could have been so much more, but in the end, it just wasn't. So... that's Bad Girls. So let's move on to the next movie, and that is The Inkwell.
All right, now, we're going to get this show started. You guys ready to get down? Are you ready to get funky? What I say? Funky!
It was the summer of '76.
What it is, cuz? Still a virgin?
You don't want to know.
And a vacation we'd never forget.
Like my seashells?
Do I even know you?
So you meeting any girls?
Now, Drew Tate is turning 2 weeks
Are you trying to break my door down?
into a lifetime of experience.
Hi, I gotta go.
Yeah, I have to go too.
Bye.
Anything you want to know. I mean, anything. You come to me, right?
Oh, okay.
What's the G-spot?
We're gonna have to work on that, Drew.
Now, where's your party jams? Come on,
yeah.
guys.
Oh, where now?
These are corduroys, Drew. Man, they make noise when you walk. You can start a fire.
Dancing, dancing, dancing.
He's making the scene.
Girl, I got a sweet tooth for your love.
Seeing the sights.
Well, surprise, surprise, surprise.
Everyone having a wonderful time.
Yes.
And turning every day into a celebration.
That's too nasty. I can't help it. I'm nasty.
Get in the groove at the Inkwell.
Did you pop it?
No, we bought it.
The monster, no nuts.
Here you go again, another movie with so much potential to it. Another movie that has a great cast: Lorenz Tate, Joe Morton, Glenn Turman, Vanessa Bell Calloway, Morris Chestnut, Jada Pinkett, Dwayne Martin. Just a really good cast, a really good idea to tell this story set in the 1970s. But just the execution overall and the script it doesn't really do anything all that exciting. And again, the trailer I think kind of gives you an indication of why this didn't work out so well. It's a movie that feels like the potential is there, but when you actually watch the movie, it feels like you're watching the first episode of a sitcom, like a really bad, like if the Wonder Years had a knockoff show, kind of like the. That's exactly what I think it would kind of be like, kind of like a knockoff to the Wonder Years. You're just missing the narration by I don't know, Lawrence Fishburne or somebody like that, whoever the top black actor was at the time. But I mean, it's not that it's bad. It's just something that we've seen done so much better in other movies. I can think of so many other movies that have done this type of a story much better. Like a very underrated movie, I think, that in the similar type of thing is Roll Bounce, which came out about 2005, which is a very underrated film. I mean, I give him credit that the effort is there. It's just the execution doesn't really work out well. And like with Bad Girls, it doesn't do anything to really stand out on its own. It's a movie that feels like there's something special there. They just can't crack the nut to open it up and show the true potential of this movie. It's a shame, too, because, like I said, there is a lot of potential here, a good cast, some good ideas, just not the right execution. So, unfortunately, that's another misfire for the Inkwells. So, anyway, on to the next movie, and that is Brain Scan.
Now that I have your attention, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Trickster.
What was that film you were watching?
Death, death, death.
Death, death, death.
Part 2.
Oh, Lord. Michael's seen it.
Go for it, man.
Done it. Played it.
Look, I've played them all.
And just when he thought he'd die of boredom.
Brain Scan. The ultimate experience in interactive terror.
Never leave home without it.
You're in the game, man. You're in control.
You must think like a killer. Cover up any clues. Leave no witnesses, no evidence.
A challenge he can't resist.
It was so real. He was sick.
See? I told you, man. I told you it would blow your mind.
A game he can't escape.
There was a grisly murder in the quiet suburban town of Mountview today.
So you did it.
What was on that disc?
It's not a game anymore.
Hamilton and Hagen.
It's real.
It wasn't supposed to be real.
Real, unreal, what's the difference?
I didn't kill the man. I didn't even know him.
You're in this now. You won't survive on your own. You started this, and now you're afraid to finish it, just like you're afraid of everything else.
I won't kill her. You kill her.
Wait. The witness has to die.
Edward Furlong, Frank Langella, and introducing T. Ryder Smith as the trickster. Brain Scan.
I can't wait to see what you do next.
Yet another movie that has a lot of potential to it, a good idea, a pretty good cast. I mean, Eddie Furlong, Frank Langella, T. Ryder Smith looks like he's having a good time with this, but just it's nothing new that we haven't. It's nothing that we haven't seen done already, and done a whole lot better. It's a movie that feels like we've seen this concept done so many times before, and since this movie came out, and I don't know, the idea of just trying to create a video game villain like this, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's a film that I think was trying to sell its soundtrack more, because the soundtrack has a lot more memorable things about it. I mean, you've got songs by Primus, White Zombie, Butthole Surfers, Alcohol Funny Car, Mud Honey, Old. The theme is the score is by George S. Clinton. I mean, that's a pretty good soundtrack that I think they were trying to sell more than the actual movie. And I guarantee you, if I find a TV spot for it, there'll be a thing for the soundtrack first before the actual credits, or even afterwards, because I think this is the type of movie that will actually sell that type of a thing. And we've seen Eddie Furlong act before outside of Terminator. We talked about several of his movies that he's been in since Terminator 2 came out. Stuff like Pet Sematary 2, American Heart, A Home of Our Own. The kid has shown at the time he was a kid, but he has shown that he has potential as an actor, and he would eventually show that later on in the 90s with a couple of pretty good movies. I mean, Pecker, American History X, Detroit Rock City, just to name a few. But in this case here, it's a movie that just feels like there's potential there, just bad execution. It's a film that just doesn't work. It's a shame, too, because like I said, a lot of potential here. It just doesn't work. And I feel like that's going to be the theme for this weekend, because I think the last movie is actually that too. You've got Corbin Burnson, Erica Eleniak, William McNamara, and Dennis Hopper's Chasers next.
Come in. You asked me, Chief? You need somebody for chaser duty. Chaser duty.
Yeoman Second Class, Fast Eddie DeVay, and Chief Petty Officer Rock Riley
The only reason you're here is because Navy regulations require 2 people to transport a prisoner.
are about to begin the most dangerous mission of their careers.
Did they just send the 2 of you for this prisoner? Johnson, 7 to 10. I gotta make sure I dot all the I's.
Bring up Johnson! But when headquarters gave them this detail,
You're one hellacious piece of manpower.
they left out one small detail.
Excuse me, if I may, I have to use the bathroom.
Oh, yeah, sure, we can pull off up here.
Why don't we just make her a pitcher of iced tea while we're at it?
Are you sure about this stall?
She's gone! Hold right there, Johnson!
They're trying to kill me!
It was supposed to be a routine prisoner transfer.
You boys should put a 10 over this circus.
Now, either you follow me or I'll shoot you for mutiny.
Want another shortcut?
But she is no routine prisoner.
Tony! And she's gone.
Howdy, ma'am.
Just go.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, boys! Whoa!
Hey, come back here! You come back here!
I just love a man in uniform.
Tom Berenger, Erica Eleniak, William McNamara, Gary Busey. In a film by Dennis Hopper.
What are you doing? Tony! I gotta admit, she's good.
Chasers, the ultimate detour of duty.
It literally is the theme of this week, because honestly, you could pretty much say the same thing about this movie. I mean, Dennis Hopper has proven he can direct movies. He's done a pretty good job of directing a couple of pretty good films. The Hot Spot, we've already talked about on here. He directed Easy Rider, of course. But a film that has a good cast like this, Tom Berenger, William McNamara, Erica Eleniak, Crispin Glover. Hopper's also in here, Gary Busey, Seymour Cassell, Dean Stockwell, Biddy Schramm from Monk. Dan Gilroy, who's a prolific writer, is the one who wrote this. Music by Dwight Yoakam. I mean, the setup is there. It's just none of the jokes are really funny, and the chemistry between Berenger, McNamara, and Eleniak just isn't there. Like, I don't buy Erica Eleniak as this smart, sophisticated criminal who's able to get away from these 2 guys that are supposed to take her in as quick as they do in this movie. I mean, it gets ridiculous. Like, these guys should not be this stupid in order to keep falling for this trick over and over and over again. I mean, and you think Dennis Hopper's going to be one of the main characters in there, but no, that's just a cameo for him. And like how much of an ego do you have to put a cameo of yourself in the actual trailer and making you think that you're one of the big stars of the movie when really you're not? I mean, it's a movie that really is a huge misfire. I think what Dennis Hopper was trying to do was basically try to make a mainstream comedy, success, but needless to say, it didn't work in this case. And again, much like with most of the movies we've talked about on here, it's a movie that has potential. Could be good if you had the right leads to it. Could be good if you had a good script to it, but it just wasn't there. It's a movie that has a lot of potential, but wrong execution. So that's Chasers for you.
I want to see prisoner 2675. I run a multinational business here, Mr. Robbins. Basically, I take human garbage from around the world and I reprocess it. You will have no future contact with the outside world. No visitors, no phone calls, no letters. For all intents and purposes, you're dead. Was there anything you wanted to add?
To never turn your back on me again. Prisoner 2675 has been delivered, sir. Welcome to Vacation Paradise. Enjoy. I could use a man like you. We appear to have an opening. And what if I say no?
That would be very disappointing.
Bye.
Sir, prisoner 2675 is alive. He's at the insiders camp.
What is this place?
Sanctuary, Mr. Robbins. We've created a new society here, a civilized one. We live under constant threat from the outsiders.
He's military trained, you realize that? Somebody taught him how to kill.
You have proven yourself a highly resourceful man. We'd like you to join us.
All I want to do is get off this island. Now I'm gonna kill you.
You want it? Come and get it!
I mean, remember how we had to deal with that in 2022? I mean, good lord. I mean, thank God it's 2023, and we no longer have to deal with that kind of stuff. Yeah, it's always funny to go back and watch these movies from the 90s these movies from the 90s that predict what's going to happen in the 20s. I mean, pretty much any decade, honestly, that tries to tell a movie in the future, and then it's nothing like in the future. Like, even some of the great movies, like Escape from New York in 1990, takes place in 1997 New York, and 1997 New York was never anything like that. But, you know, as long as the movie is still good, nobody really ever says anything bad about it. And as far as this movie goes, it's okay. Like, it's no Escape from New York. But it is not a bad movie. It's a movie that I went into this looking at this going like, well, this could go either way. This could be really generic. This could be really mediocre. This could be another Condemned type of movie where it feels like a film that takes place on an island with prisoners, and we're gonna have to see these people killing each other to try to survive. And honestly, it really wasn't like that. It was a movie that actually did kind of surprise me. I did like a lot of the movie in here. I did like a lot of the performances in here. You not only see Ray Liotta in here, you see Lance Henriksen, Stuart Wilson, Kevin Dillon, Michael Lerner, Ernie Hudson. It's got a really good cast. It has a really good story, some pretty good action overall, and some pretty good acting overall, too, as well. It's directed by Martin Campbell, who went on to make some pretty good movies after this one. GoldenEye, The Mask of Zorro, Vertical Limit, Casino Royale. Just some really good movies that came out after this particular film did. And, yeah, it is a pretty decent film. I wouldn't say it's a great film overall, but considering the low expectations I kind of went into this with, I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad I got some enjoyment out of it. But, yeah, overall, good movie. Probably won't watch again in a hurry, but if there's really literally nothing else on, I'll probably check it out again at some point. But, so that's No Escape. Let's move on to the next movie, and that is Joe Pesci starring in With Honors.
Nation in the world is, don't you? Donation.
Simon Wilder is a scholar of the streets.
Are you a student?
No, I'm a bum. But bear in mind, I'm a Harvard bum.
Who gives 4 Harvard students
We're roommates and we respect each other's space.
a reason to open their hearts.
If a woman is willing to give you her love, it's the greatest gift in the world.
Joe Pesci, Brendan Fraser, Moira Kelly.
That boy didn't go to Harvard for nothing.
With Honors, rated PG-13.
Yeah, we have another one of those movies that has a lot of potential. Some really great actors overall. You got Joe Pesci, as I mentioned, but you also have Brendan Fraser, Moira Kelly, Patrick Dempsey, Josh Hamilton. They bring in Gore Vidal to be in this movie, too. I mean, you bring Gore Vidal into something really special, but if you want to make something really special, but this really isn't anything like that. It's a very lackluster script that really is like trying to hammer its point down to you and try to talk down to you like you're the stupid one. You don't know what it really is like. You don't know what's going on in the world and what these people have to deal with. But really, we've seen better movies done this way, and it's a shame too because Joe Pesci clearly is trying to do something that's kind of outside of his kind of normal shtick, and everybody here is clearly trying. I mean, the actors are doing the best that they can, but the movie itself just really, really struggles to figure out what kind of a movie it wants to be, and what the movie decides to be is something that we've seen done over and over and over again, and it just doesn't work. It's a movie that just really, really feels like there was something more to it, but it just doesn't work out very well. It's a movie that really does not turn out toy boat. It does not turn out very well overall. It's a shame, too, because, like I said, good cast overall here, just not given a good enough script to work with, and it just doesn't work. It's a movie that's trying to hammer a point down that could have been done so much better with a little more subtle ability to it, but it just doesn't work out here. So, with that said, that's with honors. Now on to the next movie, and that is Martin Lawrence in You So Crazy. So basically, Martin Lawrence is trying to do what Eddie Murphy did with Delirious and Raw, trying to be the 90s equivalent to Eddie Murphy with these stand-up movies. And Delirious and Raw are still the best stand-up comic movies you could ever see. Those movies, and also the Richard Pryor movies as well. And, you know, Martin Lawrence can be very funny. His stand-up can be really funny. And you think with a movie like this, you think there'd be some good material to it, and there is. But it's more hit than miss. It's a movie that feels like some of the material that he does can be very funny, and then some of it's like, I see what you're going at, but you're not really putting up the good laughs here. Honestly, if you want my honest opinion, I think his second movie, Run Tell That came out 8 years after this, was a much better movie. I think it was a much more funnier film, much better jokes, and it was just a solidly made film. It was kind of Martin Lawrence's equivalent to Richard Pryor Live on the Sunset Strip, because this was after he had kind of had a little bit of a snag in his career where he actually got arrested for, I can't remember, was it him that he, before I say this I should do some research. Yeah, I figured this was it. He had gotten arrested because he had brandished a pistol out in the middle of an intersection on Ventura Boulevard in Los Angeles, and as this was just one of many things, he actually got into a violent rage with somebody on the set of filming A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. He got hospitalized at Cedars-Sinai. Tisha Campbell Martin filed a lawsuit against him alleging sexual harassment and abuse on the set of Martin. Then at the end of the decade, he had a 3-day coma where he collapsed from heat exhaustion while jogging in 100-degree weather. And like that stuff right there, I think made for a much better stand-up film than the second movie he did with Run Tell That. With this movie, like I said, there are funny moments here and there, but it's not an overall winner. It's not a movie where I can watch it over and over again, like something like Delirious or Raw or Live on the Sunset Strip or Here and Now, like the Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor movies before this. But it's not a terrible movie overall. There are funny moments in here, but it's just not enough to make for the entire movie. I think it's a decent film. It's not one I'd want to watch over and over again. Like I said, I'd rather prefer the second film he did, Run Tell That, which came out many years later, but this is not a bad film. It could have been a whole lot better, though. But, so that's You So Crazy. On to the next movie, and that is PCU.
You know about school, but I got something to say to you.
What are you, a narc?
No, I'm a pre-fresh. Admissions arranged for me to spend the night at your frat.
Well, here's all you need to know. Classes, nothing before 11. Beer, it's your best friend, you drink a lot of it. Women, you're a freshman, so it's pretty much out of the question. It's a whole new ball game on campus these days, and they call it PC. Politically correct.
What do we eat? Ready!
What happened to the ozone layer?
It was last week. Well, now it's me.
Let's do lunch.
Prior to the Portchester sports program, Tom. Hippie Olympics. But hey, it's the 90s. We'll take what we can get.
Gays in the military now!
Free Nelson Mandela!
They treat him
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's time to revive an ancient tradition we seem to have long forgotten.
You guys are talking about a party.
Meet Dave and Dave are on beer.
Toss him in back.
Sunroof. All right.
What's everybody doing?
Finishing their thesis, buzzhead.
What?
Am I okay on that side? That's good.
Play Metallica, and they will come.
Can you get us in? Yeah, I think so.
What happened to that cute puppy, Kate?
You're gonna wear the shirt of the band you're gonna go see. Don't be that guy.
You know, this place is kind of insane.
PCU! Prepare yourself for initiation.
Try to relax.
You know, it's interesting. I actually discovered this movie when I was it was actually about almost 20 years ago when I was looking through the DVD section at Walmart, and I saw a double feature set for this movie and also Airheads, which also came out in 1994. And I guess these movies are very similar because they are very funny films that didn't get a whole lot of attention when they came out, but they did kind of grow into cult status later on down the road. I prefer Airheads better, but PCU is actually pretty funny and actually really interesting when you consider that the director of this is Hart Bochner, and if you don't know that name, you've definitely seen his work before. You've seen him in a number of things, but most notably, he was Ellis in Die Hard, but he was also in Mr. Destiny. He was in Terror Train, Breaking Away. He was why can't I remember where he was in Arthur Reeves. He was Arthur in Batman: Mask of the Phantasm. He's also been in stuff like Supergirl. He was also in Mr. Destiny. Later on, he'd be in stuff like Bulworth, Anywhere But Here, Urban Legend, The Final Cut, and this was actually his first movie he ever directed, and for his first directorial effort, it's actually pretty damn good. It's actually a really funny movie. Like, Jeremy Piven really gets a chance to shine here. This is one of his big leading film debuts. You also have David Spade in there. Jessica Walter from Archer and Dinosaurs is also in here. Just really fun, just a really good cast overall, and the jokes overall are very funny. In a way, I think this movie actually is kind of ahead of its time when you really look at the subject matter that they're dealing with, and the status that this movie has had since then. It's a really funny movie. It's a very underrated film. Like I said, I prefer Airheads better because it's like I said, Airheads and PCU on the same DVD set that I first saw this on. But it is a pretty solid film. It's a very funny movie, kind of ahead of its time, and it definitely deserves that cult following. I think it's a very well-made film. Definitely check it out. I think you'd be pleasantly surprised by it. It's a movie, like I said, really ahead of its time, really funny. PCU, can't recommend it enough. So, with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that is another comedy, The Favor.
Because we were in love.
Well, I've done that.
Kathy's married.
I thought you wanted to. Not me. How about you? Yeah, no. We're going to do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Emily's single.
Are you saying you're ashamed of me?
Everyone there is bringing their children. I'll be dating one.
They're best friends.
It must be hell being in a great marriage.
Honey, when's dinner?
It is when you've been invited to your 15th high school reunion, and it kicks off wild fantasies about your first love.
And they do anything for each other.
You gotta look him up for me.
You haven't seen this man since you were 16. He's probably fat, bald, and ugly.
I'm just asking you a simple favor.
I'll try to look him up, okay?
Oh, and when you meet him, don't wear this.
I hate this on you.
Tell me everything.
You did me the favor.
What are you talking about?
The big, strong hunk in the red flannel shirt. The tongue like velvet and the arms you could die. You met him?
We were swept away. Tommy doesn't get swept away.
When two women fight, it's usually over a man.
Orion Pictures presents
Are we all right?
Oh, yes.
a story of two friends
You seem upset. Oh, you're mad at me.
and the favor that came between them.
You had the relationship with him. I had one night.
Elizabeth McGovern, Harley Jane Kozak, Bill Pullman, Brad Pitt, and Ken Wall.
Well, if you're going to have a hot fling, you might as well with someone who looks like that.
The favor.
Or at least I think it's supposed to be a comedy, because honestly, I've seen movies like this where it could easily be seen as kind of a drama or a thriller, where one of the other women tries to kill the other one for sleeping with somebody they wanted to sleep with, or something like that. This is not a very good movie. This is a movie that really, again, has a really good cast. Has a really good cast to it. Harley Jane Kozak, Elizabeth McGovern, Bill Pullman, Brad Pitt, Ken Wall, Larry Miller you see in the trailer, but this idea just feels like it just doesn't feel right. It feels like what Something Borrowed was trying to be a remake of, like that terrible movie with Kate Hudson and Jennifer Goodwin in there. John Krasinski was also in there too, which kind of has sort of a similar feel to it. It doesn't completely go that route, but Something Borrowed was much worse. This one is just not that enjoyable. It's just like it's bordering on mean-spirited, but it's also trying to be this uplifting story. This is the type of movie that you would see on a Lifetime Movie of the Week nowadays, but because of the talent they have here, it's got to be on the big screen. And again, it's another one of those movies that Orion had on its shelf for the longest time, but couldn't release it because they were in bankruptcy for the longest time. Another movie shot in 1990 and coming out 4 years later, so that should probably give you an indication of how this movie ends up turning out to be, and it's not very good. Like, it's not a very good film whatsoever. And that's pretty much all I got for you on that one. So, that's The Favor. On to the last movie that we have here, the documentary High Lonesome, the story of bluegrass music.
Things have really changed. They're not like they were back when I was really young. I'll never forget the old days years and years ago when I was a little boy. I'd like to get out, and travel around over the hills and sing to myself, and see how it would sound, singing the blues or some good gospel song.
So it's probably not a very good sign if you can't even find any information about this on Wikipedia. You have to go all the way to IMDb for it. Basically, you have a documentary that traces the music and sounds from its Appalachian roots to the present, the rise, fall, and consistent revival of bluegrass chronicled through oral history and visual record. And some names here I am very familiar with. Alison Krauss, I know, is a name that's very popular. But some of these other names I'm not too familiar with. I'm not too much into the bluegrass music thing. I just never got really into it. They interview people like Sam Bush, Curly Ray Klein, Pat Enright, Jesse and Jim McReynolds, Jimmy Martin, Lester Flatt, Bill Monroe, Alan O'Brien, Bobby and Sonny Osborne, Don Reno, Earl Scruggs, Ralph Stanley, Mac Weissman. Just reading the names off of here. Like I said, I really don't know too much about this movie to really comment on it, and just bluegrass in general. I'm not against bluegrass. It's just nothing I've never been fully interested in really getting into. But I mean, the documentary itself looks like it could be decent. It's a movie that I think if you're into bluegrass, you might get interested in it. But to me, it's not something I want to rush out to see at some point. It's just something that's kind of like, I mean, it's there for what it is, and might as well talk about it since it's one of the movies that came out this week. So that's pretty much all I got for you. High Lonesome.